Hello Year 10s. This week we continue to look at the petrochemical industry, and in fact what we're going to do is we're going to focus on two families of chemicals. Now in the past in chemistries you have come across families of chemicals. So for example, you've come across acids and alkalis, you've come across salts. Those are families of chemicals. Now in the hydrocarbons we also have families of chemicals. So let me introduce you to the new family. Now what I suggest is I'm going to draw a table as I go along. I suggest you watch a bit and then pause the video, draw the table, and you should be able to complete it to 10 for me. It will all make sense in a moment. Okay, so let me introduce you. We are going to come across two families, and we're going to, in a landscape in our book, we're going to draw a table that's going to look something like this. But watch first and take in the theory, and then you can worry about writing everything down. So let me introduce you to the first family, which is known as the alkanes. So these are hydrocarbons, and hydrocarbon means that it has carbon and hydrogen in the atom. And the way that we name them depends on the number of carbon atoms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with 1 carbon atom, 2 carbon atom, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in fact, you can go all the way to number 10. Now, it's quite easy to identify from the name the alkane family because their name ends in ANE. But what we have to learn is the prefix, the first part of their name. So let's focus on that for a moment before we get going. Now, the very first alkane we're going to come across is an alkane called methane. And methane has 1 carbon atom in the molecule. So last week I said to you we're going to need to use some marshmallows. So over here we have got our carbon atom. 1 carbon atom because we are dealing with methane. Now, carbon, being in group 4 on the periodic table, needs 4 more bonds to give it a full outer shell. And joining up with hydrogen, another nonmetal, we're going to have covalent bonds. Now, the way we're going to show the covalent bonds is by using our spaghetti sticks, or if you rather have toothpicks, that is absolutely fine. It's probably a little bit too big. Right, so the little sticks of spaghetti or linguine are representing my covalent bonds. And because carbon is in group 4, it's going to have 4 bonds. Now, that means that to this molecule, I can add 1, 2. Some of these do have holes in them because my kids were building the tallest tower out of spaghetti and marshmallows this week. 3 and 4. So that is what methane looks like. It has 1 carbon atom and 4 hydrogen atoms. So let's go back to our table and let's see how we draw that. Okay, so back to our table. So we now know that if we have 1 carbon atom, we're going to start with the prefix meth. Okay, and the name that we give to this alkane is going to be, so we're going to call this meth, and it's going to show us that it belongs to the alkane family, it's going to end in ANE. Now, the structural formula, when the examiner asks you to show the structural formula of methane, what you're going to do is you're going to draw it showing the bonding. So I've got my carbon, it has 4 covalent bonds, And to each covalent bond, I have a hydrogen. Very important, hydrogen being an element on the periodic table, it should have a capital letter H. Now, sometimes the examiner doesn't want the structural formula, they want the chemical or the molecular formula. So then we say I have got 1 carbon, and I don't need to write the 1, I can if I want to, and for every 1 carbon I have got 4 hydrogens. Okay, you're getting the idea? Right, let's take the next one. The hydrocarbon with 2 carbons, I always look at meth and I chop off the M, so I've got the second letter, which is the E, and then I get F. So I'm going to have F as my prefix, and therefore you're absolutely right, the alkane is going to be called ethane, ending in ane, because it's a member of the alkane family. Now let's get the marshmallows out. So this time I'm going to have 2 carbon atoms. Okay, so I'm going to join those 2 carbon atoms together, 1 and 2. Okay, right, I'm just going to remove this so we can focus on our marshmallows. So for ethane, I'm going to have 2 carbon atoms joined together with a single covalent bond. Now, we have said that each carbon can only have 4 bonds. Now, this carbon here has already got 1 bond, so I've got to add on 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and then for this carbon atom, it already has 1 covalent bond, so I've got to add on the second one, the third one, and the fourth one. So now I can join the hydrogens to this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So from this we can see for every 2 carbons, let me move it over, for every 2 carbons I am going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hydrogens. Okay, so let's move ethane out the way and let's go back to our table. Okay, so when we draw the structural formula for ethane, I'm going to take the 2 carbons. They are each going to have a single covalent bond, and then I need to draw the remaining bonds. So what I do is I cover that one, it's already got 1 bond, so I add on 2, 3, and 4. That carbon atom already has 1 covalent bond, so I add on 2, 3, and 4. And I now can add in the hydrogens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that gives me the formula of C2H6. Okay, now let's see if we can do the next one. If you want to do it with marshmallows, absolutely go ahead. I've got very sticky fingers, so I'm going to avoid it for the moment. Now, the number 3 in rugby, and you should know by now I'm a bit of a rugby fan. In rugby, the person who wears a number 3 jersey is known as the prop. So the prefix for a hydrocarbon with 3 carbons in it is prop. So our next molecule is going to be called propane. So you might have a propane gas cylinder at home for your barbecuing. So what we've got, we're going to have 3 carbon atoms. Okay, now each carbon atom must have 4 bonds, so I cover that up. That's already got 1, so I'm going to add on 2, 3 and 4. Now look at what I do now. I cover this carbon and I expose the next carbon. This carbon has in fact already got 2 bonds, so I only need to add on 3 and 4. Okay, and then the next carbon atom has got 1 bond already, so I add on 2, 3 and 4. And I then, with my capital letters of course, draw in my hydrogen atoms. So this time I have 3 carbon atoms, and just so that you don't make a silly mistake, just count from one spot all the time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. H8. So the molecular formula for propane is C3H8. I'm going to do one more for you. Let's see, looking at that pattern, can you guess what the molecular formula is for the hydrocarbon with alkane with 4 carbon atoms? Okay, of course it's going to have a C4, and if we look at this pattern, I've gone 4, 6, 8, so this is going to be 10. Well done if you saw that. So this time 4 carbons, 1, 2, 3, 4. Each carbon needs 4 bonds. That one's already got 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I add on my H's, and if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, exactly right. Now, if it's got 4, just like, gentlemen, this is one for you for a change. If I go to the beach, if you go to the beach, hopefully keeping your social distance, you might see 4 beauties. Now I know this is spelt as but it's not but. You pronounce it as butane. 4 beauties, butane, meth, eth, prop, bute. So if I cover this up here, this one is going to be called butane. And I think I've dropped my pen. Butane. B-U-T. Okay, right, so you get the idea, and hopefully you can do the rest without me. And I want you to go all the way to 10. Now, let's see how we do this. 4 is bute. 5, just like the pentagon in America, or a 5-sided shape, is pent. 6 is like the hexagon, so I will get hexane. 7 is hept. Now let's quickly draw this one for you. Hept is 7. 8, just like one of my favorite sea creatures. I have a few favorite sea creatures, but one of them is the amazing octopus. And the octopus obviously has 8 legs, so oct reminds me octane. We spoke about fuel. Petrol has lots of octane in it. And then we have non, and 10, just like if you reach at the end of a decade, there's a massive celebration. 10 is dec. Okay, there we go. So let's do it a little bit higher so you can all see. So this is what you've got to remember: meth, eth, prop, bute, pent, hex, hept, oct, non, dec. Can you say that with me?